If there's one thing that South Africa's African National Congress is very good at, it's deflection, and another is seeking to avoid responsibility through deflection. Title in a News 24 story today in response to an African National Congress press release over the weekend. Disingenuous. The African National Congress slams AFriForum over charges against Mbalula. The ANC criticized AFriForum for laying criminal charges against its Secretary General Fikile Mbalula. They called the move disingenuous, ideologically driven, and flawed. They released a statement on Sunday, and they reiterated their unwavering position on the crisis of gender-based violence and femicide, which President Cyril Ramaphosa has described as a pandemic devastating our society. Only that's not how the ANC reacts to it. They simply ignore it most of the time. Let me read a portion of the statement here from the African National Congress. Our comments were made in the spirit to express the ANC's collective response to this atrocity, to rally society behind justice for the survivor, and to call for institutional accountability. Following the public apology by the Minister of Police regarding the misidentification of an individual, the ANC responded with a formal statement acknowledging the correction and reiterating our support for the survivor and her family. This is the conduct of a movement committed to truth, accountability, and justice. Not even remotely. It's the statement of a party that rushes to judgment. An apology for destroying a man's reputation. He will now forever be known on record as accused of something he had nothing to do with. And you think an apology is sufficient? What planet are you people living on? Your members committed crimes and harmed someone irreparably. Their rush to judgment to tar and feather a white man with no evidence whatsoever was a crass and brazen attempt to curry political favor by an increasingly unpopular political party and smacks of racism as well. One can only wonder, had the principal been black and a member of the ANC, would they even commented on the situation? This is about deflection, folks. This is what the ANC says. The violation of a child is not only an act of brutality, it is a reflection of systemic failure. It demands outrage and urgent action. Well, I don't disagree with that. It is a reflection of systemic failure. ANC systemic failure. Your failure to protect South Africa's women and children. And that's not the topic at hand. It reflects a tendency to deflect attention from the pain of victims and the responsibility we all share in building a society free of fear and violence. We will not apologize for speaking out in defense of the voiceless, said Malengu Bengu Motsiri, the spokesman for the ANC. What about the pain of this man whose life has been destroyed, now known as a child rapist and a molester and a pedo, which he's none of? Because your rush to judgment, you have no sense of responsibility whatsoever for intentionally destroying a man's life. There's not just a single victim in this case. You created new victims with your slander and libel. And besides, as if the African National Congress has any credibility whatsoever on the subject of protecting South Africa's women and children. Seriously? Femicide and infanticide and molestation of children are things that have exploded under ANC governance. Why? Because there's no deterrence against crime and fatherless families. No morality whatsoever. Now, the abuse of the child is not the reason for AFriForum laying charges, and the ANC knows full well why the charges were filed. This statement is just utter garbage. This is simply an effort to deflect from their criminal actions by trying to focus things on the case. If they'd focused on the case in the first place of the child being molested, there wouldn't even be criminal charges against Fikile Mbalula and Julius Malema. Now, the ANC's comments came after Birdview College principal Jaco Pieterse was falsely implicated in the alleged rape of a 7-year-old girl. They laid criminal charges Friday against Fikile Mbalula, EFF leader Julius Malema, and Eastern Cape Education MEC Fundile Gade. AFriForum's private prosecution unit is representing Jaco Pieterse, and they met with him at the Sophiatown and Boksburg North police stations at Gauteng to lay charges of criminal injury against those three. Now, in addition, Malema and Mbalula also faces charges under Cybercrimes Act and Intimidation Act after they allegedly defamed Pieterse and AFriForum in public comments following the incident. Well, there's no alleged. The receipts are there, so they're guilty. Just need a court to decide that, right? Well, allegedly. Now, the case is about a child whose mother claimed that she was raped at Birdview College in the Eastern Cape in October of last year. Pieterse and the school's caretaker are being represented by AFriForum, and they've been at the center of a sustained social media slander campaign purportedly orchestrated by senior politicians from the ANC and EFF since November of last year. And they think an apology is all it takes. Now, the National Prosecuting Authority declined to prosecute this case for lack of evidence, yet the accused have continued their attacks on Meneer Pieterse, destroying his life, his reputation, his prospects, and leading to threats to his safety and completely undermining administration at the school. So the question is, why the demonic obsession with falsely attacking Mr. Pieterse? Could it be because he's an Afrikaner, a white man in a position of high responsibility? And we know that in Fikile and Juju's world, we simply cannot see a white man in authority because it fosters images of apartheid in their pea-sized brains. No? Now, the ANC deflecting attention away from the slander and libel that have destroyed this man's life, making him a victim. They called on their allies in civil society to rally against what they termed an attempt to criminalize outrage and moral clarity. No, you can be outraged about what happened, but you cannot falsely accuse someone who did nothing because you want to. They call on all their progressive forces, including their alliance partners. So, COSATU, South African Communist Party, do you want to be part of this nonsense, protecting people who destroy innocent people's lives to further their political goals? You want to be part of that? I don't think you do. The Women's League, youth formations, community organizations to reject any effort to criminalize outrage and moral clarity in the face of gender-based violence and femicide. Again, this has nothing to do with gender-based violence, femicide, or child molestation. It has everything to do with the criminal actions, purported criminal actions by Fikile Mbalula, Julius Malema, and Gade, attacking this man with no evidence whatsoever, ostensibly simply because he's white. To be silent, to be overly cautious, to apologize for speaking out, is to portray the pain of the survivor and the broader struggle against patriarchal violence, the party said. No one said you had to be silent, but you cannot commit criminal injury against an innocent person because you don't like him or because he's a convenient foil for your political ambitions and your race hustling. It is interesting to hear them say this. Where is this outrage prior to women and girls being violated? Where is this outrage every single day? Why are rape cases so slowly prosecuted in South Africa? And why does the government encourage pregnancy and fatherless relationships with child grants for popping out babies, leading to moral decay in single-parent families? Yet more deflection from the African National Congress on this issue. The ANC reaffirms its support for our Secretary General, Comrade Fikile Mbalula, who carried the voice of millions when he said, "Enough is enough. We urge all to act with vigilance against those who exploit the justice system for ideological ends and threaten prosecution against those who defend what is right." No, Fikile Mbalula did not stand up for what was wrong or for what is right. He attacked an individual, and there are consequences to his actions. He's an elected official. That's even more egregious. Not a private citizen falsely accusing someone. He's a politician with influence, falsely accusing someone, intentionally destroying their lives, purportedly. The thing is, fewer and fewer South Africans are buying the ANC's approach to pretend that it is not guilty or that it has failed. Everyone can see ANC failure all around them, everywhere in South Africa, from potholes to no police response, to no electricity, to missing rail lines, to missing cables, to cash in transit heist, to the abuse of women and children. Everyone can see the ANC's failure everywhere. People are not falling for it as they have for 30 years. The case against Mbalula and Malema is not about gender-based violence. It is about slander and libel. For his part, Jaco Pieterse said, "While I'm relieved that the truth has been revealed, I am determined to ensure that people understand that there are consequences for making irresponsible and false allegations on social media and other platforms." Kali Creel said that AFriForum's legal team would pursue individuals who attempt to destroy Pieterse's life and spread lies about AFriForum, and they should, and more power to them for doing so. This is not the first time this has happened with people in South Africa making false allegations against others. The Sky case is a good example of it and how it destroyed Amy's life. Virtually no consequences for the criminals who committed those criminal acts. Hopefully, assuming Mbalula, Malema, and Gade are guilty, they pay a serious price, as well as their political parties, for fostering race hate, racism, and attacking this man with no evidence whatsoever, simply because he fit a profile that they liked, and so they jumped on it. The rush to judgment, tar and feather someone because it fits your political narrative and profile is unconscionable, particularly for a person in the private sector. A politician, well, we know how much we can trust politicians, and they're free game. Private citizens, this is reprehensible, disgusting, vile, repulsive, and frankly, it's criminal. Let's see what happens. What say you, South Africa? Mzansi? Cheers.